Good evening, everybody. It's a little dark in here. We might turn on the light before we actually start recording the video. But tonight, we're talking about your 4 o'clocks you got to watch while you're driving and a little bit about hours of service. Anything else to add?
Nope.
Okay, then let's get to it. Hey everybody, welcome back to Cajun Couple Trucking. Now, what we're talking about tonight, and I know we've been trying to get on schedule, and tomorrow, enough. Who you growling at? Tomorrow we have a new Traveling Thursday coming out, so be on the lookout for that because it's going to be out. I set it to post. I've already done it, already got it. Set it to post at 12:05 in the morning. So if you're up, watch that. This time had a little trouble with the music, so let us know if you like the music with the music or without, and we'll fix it on the next one. So, all right, your 4 o'clocks that you got to watch. Do you know what they are, babe?
I know there's a 14-hour clock,
Mm-hmm.
70-hour clock,
Yep.
80-hour clock.
Nope.
Well, 70 or 80 go together, right?
Nope.
Nope.
She's close though.
There's a lot of clocks.
There are 4 clocks we got to watch. 3 of them renew every single day, and then 1 of them doesn't. All right, so you're either on 70 hours in 8 days or 60 hours in 7 days. Okay, most companies go 70 hours in 8 days because it looks like you get more hours, when in actuality you can actually squeeze in another 5 to 7 hours if you do the 60 and 7. But that's for another video. There are 4 clocks you need to watch. Is your 8-hour clock, your 11-hour clock, your 14-hour clock, and your 70-hour clock. Now, the 3 that renew every day at, well, pretty much at midnight, your 8-hour clock, your 11-hour clock, and your 14-hour clock. Now, your 8-hour clock renews after you take a 30-minute break. That 8-hour clock is specifically there for you can't work more than 8 hours without a 30-minute break. After your 30-minute break, that 8-hour clock renews. Every time you take a 30-minute break, that 8-hour clock renews. Your 11-hour clock, which is your driving clock, that renews after a 10-hour break. Okay? Now, we're not even going to cover split breaks in this. So, after a 10-hour break, your 11-hour clock renews. Okay? Your 14-hour drive clock, that renews after a 10-hour break as well. Your 14-hour drive clock is one you can pause with your split break to allow what seems more time, but not really. There are special circumstances where you should use it. Then your 70-hour clock is how many hours you can work in 8 days. Okay? Now, the other 3 clocks renew. The 70-hour clock only renews if you take a 34-hour break. That's 34 hours without being on yard move, on duty, driving. It has to all be off duty. You can still drive, technically, if you use personal conveyance, like you're taking your 34 and you and your wife want to go eat out, or you want to go watch a movie, or you need to go grocery shopping, or what other instances are there?
Bowling.
Bowling, getting the dog groomed. One of my wife's favorites is seeing the grandchildren. Go and see the grandchildren?
Yeah.
Yes. So, those are all permissible. And different companies have different guidelines on that. So, you got to check with your company. But That's the only way to renew that 70-hour clock. Now, most drivers run on recaps, which means we work 8.5, 9.5 hours a day. And at the end of the 8th day at midnight, we start getting back the hours that we worked 8 days ago. So, like tomorrow, at midnight, I get back 10 hours and 11 minutes. Well, that I did. I want to say, see, today is Wednesday night, last Tuesday, if I remember correctly. Um, I'd have to double check, but around that time. So your 8 hour is can't drive more than 8 hours without a 30-minute break. 11 hours is you can't drive more than 11 hours in a day. Now, the hours of service still allow you to drive 2 additional hours if you can prove you ran into traffic, had severe weather, something that slowed you down. Your 14-hour clock is 14 hours to drive once you first go on duty for the day. So if you go on duty, say at 10 a.m., then you have until 12 a.m. to drive those 11 hours. If you still have hours to drive when it hits 12 a.m., you cannot drive until you have a 10-hour break. Your 70-hour is the one you have to watch more diligently than the others, especially when you get closer to the end of the week. Now, when I say those 3 clocks renew, they renew under the circumstances, either 30-minute break or a 10-hour break. Okay? The 70-hour only in the 34-hour. So, if I have, like 2 days ago, we had 3 hours left to drive, and we weren't getting anything back at midnight. The next day, I drove my 3 hours. That night at midnight, I got back like 7 hours. So, my 70-hour clock was the clock I was against. You can't get anything back on that. Even though at midnight, my other clocks renewed, my 8-hour clock renewed, my 11-hour clock renewed, my 14-hour clock renewed, I still could not go anywhere because my 70-hour clock only had 3 hours on it. Well, I could go for 3 hours. I couldn't go my full 11 hours. So you got to watch all 4 of those clocks. And the DOT, FMCSA, the rules state you have to go with the clock with the least amount of time on it. So say we're starting off with a fresh 70-hour clock when we start driving. So all of our clocks are full. Our 8-hour, our 11-hour, our 14-hour, and our 70-hour are full. When we're looking at how long we can drive, how long can we drive, babe?
8 hours. Unless
Right.
we take a 30-minute break.
Right. And we have to take a 30-minute break every 8 hours. So when you look at the 11-hour driving clock, when can we take our break and still drive 11 hours for the day and not have to take 2 breaks?
After 5 hours. Right?
After 5 hours, you could. But after 3 hours,
Okay.
you can take your break. So on your 8-hour clock, when you hit 5 hours, you could take your 30-minute break and still drive all 11 hours. Okay, now it's been 5 hours. You take your 30-minute break. How many hours are going to be on your clock when you get off your 30-minute break?
Rest of your 11 hours. So 6.
6 hours.
5 and a half.
Well, no.
6 hours, yeah.
6 hours because that 30 minutes doesn't count against your driving clock. Okay. Now let's make it easy. We left at 6 o'clock in the morning. Okay. When will our 14-hour clock be up?
At 8 p.m.
At 8 p.m. Correct. At 8. Okay. So let's say we drive our 5 hours. Okay.
Gotcha.
So 6, it's 11 a.m. Okay. We stop for our 30. We wind up we get caught up. play a few games, go to the driver's lounge. Ooh, it's a movie we haven't seen in years. We want to watch it. Okay, and we wind up leaving at 4 p.m.
Okay.
Okay, how many hours can we drive?
Up to our 14-hour clock.
Right, which is
Oh, now you're asking me to do math.
still 8 p.m.
Still
because
8
we
p.m.
started at 6 a.m.
Right.
So it's still 8 p.m. So from 6 p.m.
4 p.m.
4 p.m. to 8 p.m. is only 4 hours.
4 hours.
Okay, we drove 5, which left us 6. So we leave 2 hours left on our 70 that can roll over to the next day.
Correct. Because we can't use them that day.
Right. So we end the day with a full, because after 30 minutes, we get our full 8-hour clock back. And we have 2 hours, right,
Right.
on our 11-hour clock. Because we drove 5, and we drove another 4. That's 9 plus 2 is 11. So we have 2 hours on our 11-hour clock. Does that matter right now? No, we had a full 70. So in 10 hours, we're going to have 11 hours to drive. Our 14-hour clock is at 0. In 10 hours, we get 14 hours back on that clock. It renews. Our 70-hour clock, how many hours will we have on our 70-hour clock the next day after 10 hours?
60 hours.
No, we drove 9 hours, not 10.
Oh.
We'd have 61 hours. Okay. And it keeps going like that. That 70-hour clock arguably is your most important clock because that's the one that can kick you into behind. Because when dispatch looks at the load they're giving you, they look at how much time you're getting back, how much time you have, and how much time it takes to do the load. They do not look at what time to drop the load, what time to pick up the load. All they're looking at is straight times. If you've been running nights and you need to deliver early in the morning, now you have to switch your driving schedule. You may not have time. That's why you have to look at your trip plan forwards and backwards. And we'll show you that on a trip plan video later on.
Yes.
Now,
because that's even more confusing.
That is very confusing.
Yeah.
But once you get it down and you get in the practice of it, you can do it like that. And you can, after 10, 15, 20 years, you get to where you just look at it and say, oh, yeah, I can make that. Or no. So.
We're not there yet.
No. So your 70-hour clock is arguably your biggest clock. Right now, we have 2 hours and 35 minutes on our 70-hour clock. It is November 1st, 2023, and we are 115 miles from our pickup.
We're not going anywhere.
We're not going anywhere. We have our full 8-hour clock. We have 5 hours and 34 minutes left on our 11-hour clock. We have 5 hours, 47 minutes left on our 14-hour clock, but only 2 hours and 35 minutes on our 70.
We've been driving. So
we use the lowest clock, which is the 2 hours and 35 minutes. Now, I am into my break about 8.5 hours.
Yep.
Okay. So, in about an hour and a half, my 8-hour will still be at 8 hours. My 11-hour will be at 11 hours. My 14-hour will be at 14 hours. But my 70-hour will still be at 2 hours and 35 minutes until midnight. And it's not midnight where you're at. It's midnight where your corporate office is. So ours is in Central Time Zone. We're in Eastern. So it's going to be 1 a.m. here before I get any hours back. And I'm getting hours. Let's see, what am I getting? I'm getting 10 hours and 11 minutes. Now, I don't pick up till 7 p.m. tomorrow, 115 miles away. This is going to be the first night since March that we have slept and haven't set an alarm, because we're not setting an alarm tonight. We're just going to wake up when we wake up. However, I know it makes it clear as mud. Yeah. But here's something else that'll make it even clearer than mud is the FMCSA has been changing the hours of service, but not changing it. They've been adding addendums, but not going back and actually changing the laws they've already put into place. For instance, Prime will tell you 2 or 3 times through your PSD, anytime you go to a logs class, anytime, they're going to tell you the FMCSA's newest rule was put out about 2 years ago on pre-trips is you have to do both a pre-trip and a post-trip, but only one needs to be on duty. That's true. They made an addendum that says that.
It's true.
They
But
did.
it's not true.
Right, but it's not true because the rule, the actual law states you must perform a pre-trip before you're driving. Before you start driving, you must perform a pre-trip. This is before you drive, not drive 3 hours, stop and do a pre-trip. Before you start driving, you must perform a pre-trip on duty. Okay? They never change that. Most officers in most states will see that you're doing because Prime states, and they tell you this in law class, do your walk around off duty as your pre-trip and put it off duty, notate walk around. Do your on duty post trip. That will satisfy that one needs to be on duty. And if you don't start your clock, so you can use a whole 11 hours to drive, then that 15 to 20 minutes can still be on duty because you can go past the 14 hours as long as you're not driving. That's another important thing to mention about the 4 clocks. This is for driving. You can stay on duty for 48, 72 hours. As long as there's a 10-hour break between your on duty and your drive, you're still legal. Yeah. So, going back to the rule, there are, and I have talked to some who have said if a driver's being belligerent, if driver's being uncooperative, or if we're just having a bad day, we can go back to the original rule, look at your logs, and say, where's your pre-trip? Well, it's right here. It's a walk around. No, your pre-trip requires that you be on duty. Where's your pre-trip? Now they have 8 days. They can write you up for no pre-trip. Here's an easy way to get around it. Okay. This is what I do. This is what I used to tell my students to do years back. Before we had the hours of service, it was a lot simpler back then, and a lot more complicated. That's for another video as well. But I do my pre-trip. I get up, I go use the restroom, I come back, I do my pre-trip. I'm still off duty. All I did was switch my sleeper berth to off duty. I'm still off duty. I do my pre-trip, the whole thing. Okay? Get the wife up, take the dog out, we go inside, get our supplies for the day if we need any, do what we need to do. When we are ready to move, that's when I put on duty vehicle inspection. That covers me in case I get that jerk or that officer who's having a bad day who wants to say, where's your pre-trip? And I sit here, I've already done my pre-trip. I sit here and I wait. I watch that clock. At about 4 minutes before I go off pre-trip, and I'll let it run. I watch my time. I let it run. May do 15 minutes, may do 10. I'll fluctuate. It should not be the same every day because it's not going to take the same amount of time every day to do your pre-trip. And then about 4 minutes before it ends, I'll start my truck, let my air charge up, do my brake check, my brake test. Then I'll let it charge up again. Then I'll charge my trailer brakes. We have that, pressure system that inflates the tires. So I want to make sure that I'm not getting any tire alerts before I leave. Then push in my tractor brake, charge my tractor brakes, and I leave. It will change me from on duty to driving as I leave. Now I've started my clock, but I've only got 11 hours to drive in a 14-hour period. So that 10 minutes, 12 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes is not going to hurt me, because when we drive, we stop at about 4 to 5 hours for everybody to use the bathroom, get something to drink. Then we drive another 4 to 5 hours. At the most, we'll stop 3 times. Our 30-minute and 2 bathroom breaks. And so in that time, my 30 minutes, my longest break, the other 2 breaks are about 10, 15 minutes each. Let's say they go long 20 minutes each. We're still looking at only an hour and 20 minutes. Well, an hour and 20 minutes. So, an hour and 10 minutes, an hour and 20 minutes out of 14 when I can only drive 11. So we're looking at, we still have about 2 hours and 40 minutes, 2 hours and 50 minutes of playtime in that 14-hour clock, which we can't use. So if you're a truck stop cowboy and every time you see a TA, ooh, TA, pull over, let's go see what they got. Let's go see what they got. Yeah.
Or casino.
You're going to run out. Casinos, yes, casinos. You can walk into a casino with it in your mind, I'm just going to use the restroom. Lose $200 in 4 hours.
Not us, but
Not us, but I know some drivers who do.
Yep.
But what we're getting to is watch your clock. If you have any questions on the 4 clocks, please don't hesitate to ask.
And if you have trouble remembering, there's an app for that.
Yes. Most of your ELDs give you your shortest clock on the display. Keep your ELD up and running while you're driving. Always. Number 1. Number 2, if you get pulled over for an inspection, if you get pulled over at any time for an officer for anything, speeding, light out, anything, you're supposed to go on duty. Most officers will tell you, they'll walk up, say, sir, please put your ELD on duty. They don't have to, though. But at the end of their little inspection or writing you a ticket, if they ask to see your ELD and you're on off duty, that's a violation. You do not want violations on logs. So, if an officer pulls you over, when you set those brakes before he gets to your truck, you should have already changed to on duty. Probably should have already sent a message to your company too. But anything else to add that I might have forgotten about the 4 clocks?
No, just keep it in front of you because you'll forget and you'll just keep driving and then you'll be in violation and your company won't be happy.
No. Companies don't like those violations because they go against you and go against them.
Yeah.
So, please watch your clocks. If you have any questions, let us know. If you have any, and our little darling here, she needs a haircut as bad as Daddy does. But if you have any questions, always feel free to contact us. Several of our videos have my phone number in them. Easiest way to contact us is to text. May not get a text right back because if I'm driving, I'm not touching my phone. Sorry. But whenever we stop, we'll get with you. Our email is on there. And don't forget, subscribe, share, hit the bell for notifications for our next videos. which we're trying to make more often. And like and comment on the YouTube algorithm. That all helps our videos get out there.
And tell Coconut to stop looking. She's silly.
But as always, keep your shiny side up, your rubber side down, and your mirrors between the ditches. We'll catch you on the flip side.